guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Marissa Explains It All. Happy October, everyone. It is the time of year that I love where it gets a little colder out. You can wear like nice boots and sweaters and kind of bundle up a little bit. The leaves start to change, it's so pretty. And of course, some of the great holidays are coming up. I love Thanksgiving and of course Christmas is everything, but Halloween is first. And so I know a lot of people are looking forward to decorating for Halloween. I don't get too much into Halloween, but I do think it's a fun time for kids to dress up and of course get candy, and I might like to dress up too. So I figured I would do a little decorating this year. So if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned and I'll be right back. So I went on Pinterest and of course, and my favorite place, and I went and pulled a bunch of ideas, looked up all kinds of Halloween decorating and Halloween crafts, and I picked a few that I liked that I would be comfortable putting in my home, because I'm not really looking for anything like overly ghoulish or scary, and I'm not really looking for stuff that's like, I don't know, kind of cheaper looking. I kind of wanted something that was nice. So I pulled a few ideas. So for each thing that I found, what I'll do is I'll show you the inspiration picture for what I was going for, the price for how much it would be to buy if you didn't make it yourself, and then I'll show you the materials you need, a quick little, maybe 5-minute tutorial on how I did each craft, and then kind of the price that I paid for it, so you can kind of compare and see if it makes more sense for you to make it or buy it. And so here are the 6 or 7 things that I came up with, and I'll just put them on the screen here and put timestamps next to each one so you can skip ahead if there's one that is more interesting to you that you'd like to make. I will put one caveat in here that a few of these are going to be a lot easier to do if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette machine or something that can cut vinyl. A couple of these do rely on a machine like that. So if you have one, that's awesome. Usually most crafters kind of tend to have something like that in their repertoire. But if you don't, maybe you have a friend that has a Cricut or Silhouette that they wouldn't mind kind of cutting you some vinyl if you could want to share it with them. Or there are always sellers on Etsy that will make you custom vinyl. So people often forget about that, but you can go and look for custom vinyl lettering, and there are sellers that will work with you to kind of design something. So you send them an inspiration picture and say, hey, I'm looking for this, and then it's usually not super expensive. It's a few dollars to have them cut the vinyl for you, and they'll ship it to you, and then you can just iron everything on. So that is one thing I did want to mention that will make your life a lot easier with a few of these crafts. So let's get crafting. So first up is this cute spider wreath, and I couldn't find this anywhere actually to purchase, and so I don't have like a before and after price to compare to, but I figured I could make it for pretty cost effective. So I went ahead and just bought an embroidery hoop, and I actually had a smaller one, and I liked the way the bigger one looked with my door. So you could also get one that's in between. I think I was using something like an 18-inch hoop, but just get whatever size you like. You'll need a pair of scissors, of course, to kind of cut, and some creepy cloth from the Dollar Tree. And they sell this in black and white around Halloween. It's got like a nice open kind of weave to it. You'll need a bunch of plastic spiders, and they do sell these at the Dollar Tree as well. You get a ton of them for $1. And then you'll need some ribbon. I'm using 2 kinds of ribbon here. I'm using like a twine just to make some color, kind of to my web, and then black and white striped ribbon for hanging the wreath. You'll need some hot glue sticks and a hot glue gun, of course. So to get started, go ahead and unscrew the top of your hoop. This is a really big hoop, so it's got actually like a wing nut and a bolt on it, but the smaller ones will just have a smaller screw mechanism to it. Lift that inner hoop out and then heat up your hot glue gun. And it's a little blurry through here. My camera wasn't wanting to focus, but start to lay out your creepy cloth, and you can kind of gauge whether you like a single layer or a double layer here. I just kind of laid it out to see what that would look like, and you can kind of see it's a little thin, so I figured I might do a double layer. So I've doubled it over and just kind of laid it on top, and I really liked the way the double layer looked. It gave just a little bit more to it. So I think I'm going to go with that. And just make sure that it's kind of spread out evenly, and it's hitting past the hoop. And then go ahead and place the inner hoop back inside, and we'll go ahead and maybe start just pulling on the edges a little bit to make sure that it's all laying flat and that nothing's bunched up, and it's as tight as it needs to be without having any excess there. So once you're done, go ahead and screw the mechanism at the top back up and back to where it originally started, so to tighten it, and then we'll go ahead and cut away the excess. So originally I actually left like a 1/2 inch clearance just because I didn't want it to pull through the hoop. I was a little bit afraid it would just pull through, but I noticed that when I flipped it back around, you can kind of see the shaggy edges like poking out from behind. And so I didn't really like the way that looked, and I kind of started to just fold it under, but it really wanted to come back out. So I just cut the excess off flush. Next I'm taking my twine, and I wanted to do this, and this is not in the inspiration picture, but I felt like it needed a little bit of something, like a little bit of color, and just kind of bring the orange color in. And so I got this orange twine from the Dollar Tree, which is really cool that they sell that there. And I just wanted to do kind of like a little webbing, but maybe like a little loop, and put the spiders on it. And so this is just a little bit of a, you know, kind of artistic license you can take here. And then grab your glue gun and secure the twine to the top of your hoop. So just put a little dot of glue there and lay your twine down to secure it. And then you can kind of have your web go any way you want. I'm just putting a little dot of hot glue to make sure that it stays in place every so often, and then it's ready for your spiders. And so I'm just taking my hot glue gun here, and I am placing the spider at the end of the web, and then I'm going to make sure he's really stuck on there pretty well. It's like such an open weave that it felt like it was kind of hard to make sure that the spider was really securely fixed, but I just kind of used both sides to fix them on there. And then I started placing the rest of the spiders, and so I just put as many as I thought looked good, and you can certainly fill it up more or less depending to your liking. And so once I was done with that part, thought it looked pretty good, needed to go ahead and secure the ribbon for hanging. And so I just put a little bit of hot glue, and I wanted to do like a little fold over rather than just having a cut flat edge. So I folded the ribbon and put some more glue on top, and then I just kind of laid the ribbon down flat to make that nice like folded edge there, and then gauged how far I think, you know, it should be to hang down on my door, and then flipped it over and secured the back of the ribbon with a nice, you know, little bit of hot glue as well. So once you lay that down and let it kind of solidify, then the wreath is done. And this cost about $6.50 to make. I'm getting the embroidery hoop from Michael's, and it was really cute. I think it turned out good. And this is what it looked like on my front door. So it looks better with like a nice kind of a background to it, like a dark background. Next up is the ghost doormat, and this is one where I actually could not make it any cheaper. So this was $10.88 at Home Depot, and it's probably just a seasonal item. And I've actually done a tutorial on how to make a doormat before, and I'll link that up at the top here. So if you click on the link above, you'll be able to see the full tutorial for how I use my silhouette cameo to make a stencil for the lettering. But you'll need some outdoor paint in colors of black and white. You'll need your foam brushes from Dollar Tree and a paintbrush for doing the letters, unless you want to do the letters using a stencil. I'm going to freehand the letters this time just because I didn't want to go through the effort of doing the stencil. It's just a different way of doing it. So I'm kind of gauging where I think my ghost should start using the white outdoor paint, and I'm just gonna generally make a blob that kind of starts somewhere past like maybe the 3/4 mark of the mat, and then start to fill it in and just kind of press everything in, press the paint in, and get it really nestled into the fibers. Once that's dry, I'm just gonna lay out a masking tape at the bottom just to make sure that all my letters are straight, because I'll be freehanding them and not using a stencil this time. I felt like it was kind of simple lettering and I could just do it myself, but I wanted them to be straight and even and on the same line. And so I'm starting to kind of figure out where my letters should go. And I'm starting with the letter B because I feel like I wanted to make sure that it was close enough to the ghost so that it really spelled out like boo in an easy way, like to where you could actually read it. And I think I started a little bit too far away from the ghost. I think the B needed to really be right up against him. And so I did start a little bit too far over. But if you're going to freehand it, and this is a, you know, kind of a really simple text to freehand, just go ahead and take your paintbrush and start kind of dabbing or dragging, and you might need to go over it a couple times to make that. And then of course make 2 ovals for the eyes within the ghost's head. And then what I'm doing here is just adding a top masking tape, because I felt like I wanted the letters to be evenly spaced, like top to bottom as well. And I'm just filling in the rest of the letters, and I'm working backwards. And so once you're done, don't forget to add the exclamation point, take the tape off, and it turned out pretty cute. This did cost me $30 to make, unfortunately. It cost a lot more to make it than to buy it this time, but it looks kind of cute on my front porch with the buffalo plaid mat and the spider wreath and just a welcome sign and some pumpkins. Next up are some Boo pumpkins, and these were available from Kirkland's for $60, and I wanted to see if I could try to replicate them for cheaper. So when it comes to materials, you'll need 6 candlesticks, and I do get these from the Dollar Tree. They're $1 a piece. They come in this clear color, and I've used them before for something else, so that's why mine are painted bronze, but I'm just going to repurpose these and repaint them. I'm using E6000 glue to kind of hold the candlesticks together, and then I'm also going to spray paint them black. I'm just using an inexpensive spray paint here in a gloss finish. So whatever color you like, go ahead and spray, you can, pick that up for spraying. And then you'll need pumpkins. I've just got these foam pumpkins from Michael's. These are kind of small, the small size, and these are from the Ashland brand, and they are seasonal. They're usually $10, and I got them on sale for $4, and they're the 6.5-inch ones. So they're the smaller pumpkins. They sell a bigger one too, but the smaller ones are perfect for the fitting on top of the candlestick. So grab those, and then you'll also need some vinyl. I used my Silhouette Cameo to cut this out, and I just used the Boo letters, B-O-O, and picked a font that I liked, and I already weeded out one letter, and I'll do the rest later. So let's start with the candlesticks and get those prepped. I'm using my E6000 glue here, and I'm just going to take the cap off and apply a decent amount. I mean, not too much because you don't want it to kind of spill over the edges, but you want it to be able to kind of hold. So take your glue and just kind of spread it around there on the top of the candlestick. Take the other candlestick and flip it, and then stick it right on top and kind of line up the edges as best you can. And let's set that aside to dry. I give it like a little push, kind of firmly press down and make sure it doesn't seep too far over the edges so that the glue doesn't spill out. So while those are drying, I'm going to go ahead and weed the rest of my vinyl. So this is a really easy project. And then I went ahead and applied my transfer tape to a clear transfer tape, and then cut each letter individually so they can be applied. Now it's time to find a good spot on your pumpkin. So it might be hard with the lines and seams and things like that. So find a good flat spot on your pumpkin and kind of avoid some of the imperfections. Like there was an imperfection there, so maybe that doesn't, go in the front. Peel off your vinyl, and then you'll start to kind of, find your flat spot, if you can find a flat spot, and then start pressing in. Now I found this was a little difficult just because the pumpkin is 3D, so it's, kind of hard to, put vinyl on something round. But I was able to use my little scraper tool to kind of, fill out some of the air bubbles and things like that. If you find that you're getting some creasing or too many bubbles, you can lift the vinyl back up and just kind of work with it and replace it back down and use your fingers and try to get it as smooth as you can. And it turned out pretty well in the end. It took a little finagling, but I got there in the end. And so of course, same thing with the other letters. And I did find that I had a harder time with the O. For some reason, the O's were giving me more of a hard time, maybe just because they're round, and I don't know. I had a hard time just trying to get them to lay well and not sit in the little grooves and crevices of the pumpkin, but with some work, and using my little scraper tool, they turned out pretty well. Not perfect, but they turned out cute. So that's what they looked like, all done with the vinyl applied. And then I went back outside to check on my candlesticks. In a couple hours they were dry enough to handle, so I went ahead and took my spray paint, and again just using the gloss paint, and give it a nice spray. And so I'm making sure to use back and forth motions, up and down motions, about 4 to 6 inches from the candlestick. And make sure you get every crevice and kind of every facet of it. It's easy to kind of miss spots if you don't also aim the spray up, up and down and all sides, all around. So just be careful to, get good coverage. And that's what they turned out. I loved them. I thought they were really pretty. The gloss, I think, was a good finish for this project, and you could use matte if you wanted, but I really liked how the gloss looked. And then when the pumpkins were on, that was what it looked like. I thought it turned out really cute, and I was able to make these for $23 instead of $60. And here they are, sitting on my table all lined up with some natural white pumpkins, ready for display for Halloween. Next up is a spooky pillow, and so this pillow was actually $55 from Bed Bath & Beyond, and I felt like I could make it a little cheaper, and so I already had a white pillow that I was starting with, so this is what I'm going to use for today's purpose. But if you didn't want that, you can buy it on, if you don't have one, you can buy them on Amazon. Like I think that you can get a 2-pack for $15, or wherever you like to buy your throw pillows, or you can get yourself a half a yard of white fabric if you sew, and sew it yourself. So you can make one using polyfill, just if you don't need it to have much structural support, or use a pillow form like this one. They make these dummies that are a little bit more, sturdy and go inside pillows. And you'll also need some vinyl, and so I did purchase orange vinyl, and I did Let's Get, and I did Spooky, and so the Let's Get is in the text Moonflower, and then the Spooky is in the font called Aisha Free, both from defont.com. And I did these both in about 11 by 5 for a 12-inch pillow. So that was the dimensions there. And then I just got my little bats. I copied a picture from Google and just pasted them in and used the trace feature. Grab your ironing board and your iron. You can go ahead and heat that up, and some craft paper so it doesn't get too hot on your transfer tape. And then I just went ahead and started laying out my design just to see where it would be, is best placed. And of course this is heat transfer vinyl and not regular vinyl, just to make sure everyone's clear. And so I liked it best here, and went ahead and started to lay out the text on top as well, making sure that there was enough room at the top for my bats. So once you've got it kind of placed where you want it, just go ahead and take your craft paper, or even plain printer paper works too, and start to use your iron, or whatever you have, whenever it gets hot enough to press. Go ahead and use the pressing motion in just a few seconds each until it starts to lift up. And when it lifts up cleanly, then you know you are good. So I did the word spooky first, and then I moved on to the top orange text and just did the same method. I had a lot of trouble with the orange. This one was a different brand for me. It was a new brand, and it didn't want to lift very well, so it kind of had a couple issues to it, and you can kind of see a little bubbling here. So I think I may not purchase that brand again, but it turned out okay. And then time for my bats to be applied using the same method. So just stuck them up there and press firmly until they are adhered, until the backing comes away clean. And my bats are looking pretty good. And this pillow, I say, is $12 to $20 depending on which pillow you buy. If you make it yourself, it's $12, and if you buy it, it's more like $20. And for a bonus, I had this buffalo plaid fabric that I had made my doormat out of, and I figured I would do a pillow behind it. So behind the spooky pillow. So I went ahead and cut, and I think I did maybe a 20-inch by 20-inch, and I just sewed right sides together, sewed 3.5 sides, turned it all out inside out, and then I used my scissors to press out a nice corner for nice sharp corners. And then I went ahead and used polyfill just to stuff, since they don't need to be very structural. I didn't mind just having the polyfill. And it looks so cute together. So I did 12-inch, and by the time the seam allowance was done, it was about maybe 18 inches or less. And it looks like Sasha approves of my pillows. Next up is the bat branches, and this is an easy one to do. They're $5 to purchase these bats on Etsy, but it's also $5 shipping, and so it costs about $10 to do if you're going to buy it from Etsy, or you can make it yourself. So to make it yourself, I'm using a Dollar Tree vase, one of my favorites. I love Dollar Tree. And then I'm using branches. And so you can use branches from your yard if you have, branches, or you can purchase these from Michael's. These are actually glittered. I want to say I made them myself by spray glue and glitter years ago, but I don't quite remember. So I've already had these, but you can easily glitter them yourself if you want. And I'm also using glitter cardstock because I feel like I want my bats to be fancy, so they need to be glittery. And I'm also using my Silhouette Cameo. This is one of those that you really just gotta have the cameo for, unless you want to hand cut them. You also need hot glue and hot glue gun. Go ahead and plug your glue gun in and print out your bats. And so you can buy these from the store, Cricut or Silhouette store, or just copy an image and use the trace feature to get your bats. And I'm using a piece of hot glue here, just a little bit, to glue on to each branch. And I feel like I did maybe seven or 8 bats, I can't remember which, but do as many as you like. Mine were about 2 inches big. So I did 2-inch little bats, kind of on the smaller side. I didn't want them to really dominate the branches too much. But they turned out really cute. And these were about half the price at $5 just for the cost of the cardstock. Just that's assuming the branches are free. Next up is a bat wall, and it's a similar method. I went ahead and just priced out the bats on Etsy, and you can buy a pack actually if you wanted some more bats. They sell them on Amazon, 60 bats for $13, but yeah, Etsy had them too. But I'm going to use my own, and so I'm using plain black cardstock for this purpose. I had some already laying around, and some double-sided tape that I got from the Dollar Tree, and a command hook, or command strip, just in case it didn't stick to my walls, because I have textured walls. So I printed out a bunch of bats. I ended up printing, I think, 16 total, and I did a bigger size for these because they're going to be on a wall. And so I did anywhere from 6 inches down to like 3 inches was kind of the range that I did. And so what I'm showing here are the bigger ones. And then I kind of just stuck their wings. I took their wings and folded them a little bit just to give them a little dimension. And it made it look like they were kind of coming up off of the wall. And so you can kind of bend their little wings and make them more 3D. And then from there, it's as simple as just applying your command strip tape or your double-sided tape and kind of make them all face the same way. And I did mine over a mirror, but I've seen people do them over paintings or whatnot. So just hang them however you like. And so this was similar in cost, about $5 if you were to have, you know, purchased the cardstock and the tape. Next up are some painted jars, and this is the more maybe rustic feel using ball jars, and these were $52. They were $34.50 on Etsy, but with $17.50 shipping, and I felt like that was a little pricey, but then I saw the cost of mason jars now, and I was like, well, actually, they're not that pricey after all. So I had some mason jars already. I have a ton of them just for other crafting. But if you wanted to purchase some, they do sell them. You can get 3 for $23 on Amazon, or you can buy them at Walmart. So wherever you can find your mason jars, or you can go to the Dollar Tree and just purchase and just buy these. Like just buy these dollar vases if you didn't care about the mason jar look. And so aside from that, you'll need some masking tape or painter's tape. I got that from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm using different colors of Craft Smart paint, acrylic paint, which is 79 cents from Michaels. And I got orange spice, white, black, and then I actually already had the green. It was a folk art brand in the color Fresh Cut Grass. So I lay all those out, and then you'll need some foam brushes from the Dollar Tree. You get a whole pack for $1. And then to start your jars, go ahead and take all the lids off. And then we'll start taping. And so we're going to do stripes. 2 will be striped and 1 will be solid with the pumpkins. And so to do the striped ones, I just start at the very top of the jar and tape off the rim and try to, you know, be even about it, get the, you know, the tape as horizontal as you can and be as neat about it as you can. And then I'm actually using a guide piece of tape just to measure the distance between stripes. And so I'm using this little piece of tape. You actually can tape every single row around and then remove every other row to make sure it's perfect, but I felt like I could do an okay job just using a guide piece. And so I took the guide piece off once I have my spacing right, and then go ahead and tape around horizontally. And of course, being even here is key. Try to get it as even as you can, and try to get it to meet exactly where you started. So repeat that process again, just using the guide tape all the way down just to line it up and make sure you get the space between the strips perfectly, you know, straight as much as you can. And so I did this and repeated it all the way until the bottom of the jar. I think I ended up with 4 strips or so, 4 stripes. And so once all the stripes are done, I just took a plastic plate, and I'm starting with the color white to do my stripes because both have white in them. And just take one of your foam brushes and begin to apply the paint. And you can do this in different methods. You can do it by swiping, or you can do it by stippling, or just kind of pouncing the brush on. I kind of did both. I felt like if you just did the swiping by itself, it actually showed through a lot and it needed a second coat. And if you, I don't know, I just felt like I did the stippling first, it kind of covered a little bit, but it left a texture, as you can see. So then I would go back over it and lightly just sort of brush to kind of even it out. But I found that even using that method, I really just needed 2 coats of paint. And if you didn't want to use this kind of paint and have like those streaks and that kind of rustic feel to it, you could also use spray paint. But I wanted to kind of stay true to what I think the artist did and use regular paint. And so this is the pumpkin jar, and we'll just paint this one a solid white. And I didn't mind the rustic, kind of look to it, and with the stripes. You can paint, kind of horizontally or vertically, however you want to get the paint on there. But I think it does need 2 coats, unless you want it to, kind of show through and have streaks and things like that. So I left mine as is. This is what it looks like after 1 coat, and it is pretty streaky. So I kind of do recommend 2 coats if you're gonna not like that look. And so now I'm going in with the orange. I'm gonna go ahead and paint my pumpkins. And this, I always do this. I always put way too much paint on the plate because I'm afraid it's not enough. But this was way too much paint, by the way. Take a small little brush, and we're gonna start with our little pumpkins. Just kind of dip the tip in. And it looked like what the artist had done on Etsy was kind of 2 dots, maybe almost in a heart shape, but with a rounded bottom. So I just kind of started with a heart shape with just like a really soft round bottom to it, and it just looks like a pumpkin. And they look more like pumpkins when the stem gets in there, so don't worry about that. Go ahead and finish the rest of your pumpkins. Some of them mine turned out, a couple turned out a little bigger than I anticipated, so just try to keep them uniform. And then when it's time for the, when that's a little bit dry, it's time for the stem. Go ahead and take another clean brush and just barely drag the tip of your brush across. You don't really need a huge like thick swipe, just a tiny little stem will do. And I just did this for all the pumpkins, and it really does help make them, I think, look like pumpkins. So I went ahead and did that all the way around, and then I set it aside to dry. And then it was time to get back to our stripes. So once it's all the way dried, I did a couple coats. Take off your masking tape. And this is a little bit hard because sometimes it's like stuck to it. And you'll notice that the edges are not very clean. And this could just be from the masking tape, and that I didn't use like a very high-end brand, or I didn't use frog tape or something like that, painter's tape. But I didn't mind too much because I knew that I was going to be just taping off and covering it up anyway with the other colors, with the black and the orange stripes. So I'm starting again here, this time taping on the paint that we just did. And you can see, like, if you look closely, like the little fuzzy white edges are hanging out, which is perfect because I want those to get covered up by the other colors. And so try to get a nice, again, horizontal even line going around, and maybe making sure that it meets where you started and doesn't shift up or down to where you started from. So go around and do that for the stripes that you've already painted, and then it'll be time to grab your other color paint. I'm grabbing the black here and a new brush, and I'm just gonna stick the black onto my plate and start swiping. So again, if you like that kind of streaky look, you can just swipe, or you can do the method where you sort of like stipple it first to get more paint on there and then smooth it out. Really just up to you, however you want to cover your jar. And again, you could spray paint it. If you wanted to spray paint, that might be a smoother way to do it, and maybe a little faster. Just making sure you cover the top and the bottom, don't leave any gaps. And I actually had pregnancy brain and painted both black, forgetting that one was supposed to be orange, so I had to go back and paint it orange. But this is what it looks like when it's all dried. And so once it's dry, go ahead and do the same thing as last time, where you just remove the tape. And you'll notice that this time, when we remove the tape, the lines are a little bit cleaner. They're not so bad when it comes to kind of the bleed through. So for whatever reason, this it turned out pretty good. So they're not perfect, certainly, and you can go back and fix your lines with like a regular brush and just kind of smooth them out and fix any gaps or any issues, but that's what it looked like. And then I went ahead and painted the orange one as well. So again, definitely a rustic feel to it, and if your lines aren't perfect, so if you're OCD like me, that may really bother you. But if you're not OCD and you don't care about kind of the imperfection, then that's perfect. So this is what I did with it. I just put a couple spiders on, some utensils, paper straws, and I was able to do this for $28 instead of the original $52. And so this is what they look like on my little buffet table, and they're ready for Halloween. So that is everything. As you can see, nothing's really super difficult to make, and some things actually were, you know, more cost effective to make, and a couple of them weren't. They were maybe the same cost, but I just think it's always fun to do it yourself. So if you're a crafty person anyway who likes to do it, and you have, you know, some free time on a Saturday, I always like to do that sort of thing. And that way you can always customize it to your home. You can customize the size or the colors, or just change whatever you like about it. So that's why I like to make things instead of buy them. So hopefully you found this interesting. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, of course. I do beauty and skincare, party planning, crafting, and home organization. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love to have you. I'm thinking about doing a fall decorating kind of similar concept, where maybe like fall crafts or fall decor. So if that sounds interesting to you, let me know. I'd love to see how much interest there is for that, or if I should just go right into Christmas. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.